Welcome to D-Lab's Basic Training with Fred in the box and his sidekick, Fink. Let's see what they've got lined up for me today. There's that rat. All right. So there's that rubber rat. Who knows a story about that? Fred does. So today on Basic Training, we're going to cover layouts of amplifiers. So this amp was named Swamp by the owner. I'm going to call it Swamp Thing. This is a homebrew layout of a Class A amplifier gone wrong. So I'll give you a quick visual of what we're up against. This amplifier was a little Class A design running a 6v6 and a 12AX7. It's got some pretty decent power transformers. It was built on this bent piece of aluminum. Top side looks okay, but when you look at the bottom, it's like, where do I start? Okay, so looking at our hit list, we got 5 things, but there's going to be no questions because we already have the answers. First off, we have a poor layout. The wire routing, if you were to apply power, would probably just be a disaster. There's really no reason to try it. The tube sockets. There is a Michael X in the 9-pin position, but the 8-pin is one of those Chinese ones that I've warned you guys about. The pins just don't make good contact and they fail in a short matter of time. So that needs to be replaced. So what we have here is a noisemaker in progress. If you were to build this and turn it on, I guarantee you it'd be nothing more than a squeal monster. So what are we going to do? Here's a close-up for your entertainment. This is the power supply module. This is the driver board, and that's actually a D-Lab ECBA module. Normally, these modules have the pots in front of them and the tubes are right behind them, and you just run short jumpers. In this case, the tubes ended up way over here. The output transformer is actually centered so the leads are underneath the board. And that is feedback city, waiting to happen. So what is D-Lab going to do? Well, we are going to use a Hammond 10x6x2 chassis. I'm going to gut this thing out and we're going to move everything onto this new chassis with the proper layout. So here's an example of an amplifier built on that same Hammond 10x6x2 chassis. We have our power transformer. These 2 tubes are the preamp. And then this has a 12v6 output, but we're obviously going to use a 6v6, and this is the output transformer. This would be the layout that I'm going to follow for this amplifier. So first I got to lay out the chassis, get the holes drilled, place the parts, install the boards, and then we'll wire it up. So if you look at this layout, you'll see the input jack is up front as well as the controls and the power switch. Then, if you turn this thing around, you'll see that the speaker jacks are back here behind the output transformer. So the output section is as far away as possible from the input section. Also, the power transformer is as far away as it can be from the output transformer, so you don't get any interaction. Now this does have a choke, but so does this one. So there is room under the chassis for this choke to reside. So top side, you're simply going to see the power transformer, output transformer, and tube sockets. Alright, let's get it going. So I stripped down that chassis, left the components behind that we're not going to use, and the ones that will be used are sitting here on the paper plate parade. So we've got our driver board, power supply, transformers, and miscellaneous jacks and hardware. It's time to lay out the new Hammond. Here's a new layout. Now the boards obviously will be underneath the chassis. That's just there to give you some reference. My power transformer, 12AX7, 6v6, and the output transformer. Let's get it punched. Here's a little progress report. Top side, all the holes are drilled. This is for the standoffs for the board that would be inside. One thing I didn't tell you guys, is the owner plans to run this as a combo amp, so it's going to go in a cabinet hanging upside down. So power is going to be over here. It's my input jack, volume, treble, bass. Inside I made room for the choke. It's going to sit on the wall over here. Power supply board will nuzzle right next to it. This is the driver board, and of course controls up front. So it'd be a matter of simply hooking up little jumper wires going to the tube sockets and controls. And the square hole you see back here will be for a IEC power input port with built-in fuse. Alright, mechanically everything is in place. Power transformer, 12AX7, 6V6 output transformer. Got the IEC input jack. This is my 4 and 8 ohm speaker out. Bottom side, boards are mounted. Choke is over there. I installed a new Cub 1 power supply board. Stupid phone. Here's the back of the speaker jacks. My control lineup, input jack, volume, treble, bass. I have not installed a power switch yet. She's looking good. Ready to wire. So there's the amp, we're ready to test. I have not installed a power switch yet. I'm still waiting to see what the customer would like. He supplied these tubes. So this is one of those Russian 6V6s, and then there's a little China 12AX7. Let's see how those do. So the chassis layout really turned out nice. I utilized these number 6 chassis studs instead of using screws. I think it gives it a much neater appearance. We have our input jack, volume, treble, bass. Alright, let's flip her and take a look inside. Here's the inside of the new Swamp amp. We have the D-Lab ECB Class A driver board. Now this one's been modified so that it has bass and treble. Normally I sell this board and it only has a tone control. So some traces got cut and things got rearranged. I rebuilt the Cub 1 power supply board. So I used his 2 filter caps that he had on the original board, but then I added one, and of course we have the choke underneath. And the lines just reached the board, which was good. So this board now rectifies the AC into a high voltage DC, goes through the choke, and then that line feeds the plate of the 6V6. Go through a screen resistor, and there's a cap that I had to add for the screens there. And then we go through the 22K resistor for the preamp feed, and that uses this cap. Really turned out nice. Okay, now I'm going to fire up the amp. I'm going to be using my newest variac. This is a very sensitive variac. It has an amp meter that only goes to 1.5 amps. So it's very responsive at low current, which is valuable when you're testing these type of amps. So we're going to bring up the variac. I'm monitoring the high voltage over there on this new Tenma meter. So here we go. I'm going to ramp up voltage. You see the Tenma over there watching the high voltage, and since we are diode rectified, there's no delay. Okay, I'm watching the amp meter on the variac. See, we're not drawing much of any current, but then again the tubes aren't warmed up yet. So there's 100 volts. Let's give it a chance to warm up. Starting to see a little bit of amperage now. Got about 300 volts DC. So there's the full 124, whatever it may be. We got, let's just call it 335 volts plate. Filter caps are rated at 450 volts. So we're in good shape there. Now, the first thing you want to do with any amp, after you've built it and you're testing, is do not hook up an input source. But you want to bring the volume up all the way and see if you're getting any squeal, any feedback. Bring your treble all the way up. There's back. There's all the way up. That's full volume. Volume all the way down. No hum. So this is going to be a great amp, I can already tell. Alright, let's hook up a signal and see what it sounds like. Alright, just hooked up a looper. Here's my bass. Sounds good and powerful. It's going to be a great little Class A amp. So we converted Swamp Thing into just Swamp. I believe that's what he's going to call it. The customer still wants me to make a control panel. We're going to go with tan and aqua green lettering. I still need to install a power switch and some type of a power jewel for him. But in conclusion, for building these little amps, the key factor is layout. You can have the best circuit in the world, but a bad layout is just not going to work. So you really have to pay attention to that. Using these little driver boards make the wiring much easier, and it takes the guesswork out of that layout. If you guys are interested in any of these driver or power supply modules, they are available on dlabelectronics.com. Just contact me and I'll get you set up. D-Lab wants you guys to be successful on your first amplifier build, and that's why I produce these videos. D-Lab's basic training. And of course, we can't forget about Fred and Fink.